Yes. The open locker was stuffed with dirty work clothes and old boots. There was a photo of a woman taped to the inside, but it was scratched out and the face was unrecognizable. Oh, schwieriges Wort. Power panel looked like it was shut off. Did I push the switch? Yes. It was shut tight. There was a rusty looking card slot on the side. Dann vielleicht irgendwie anders. This was Norman's locker. The door was dented like someone had punched it. I don't remember him doing that when we worked there. Another panel that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Did I push the switch? Yes. Yes. A utility shelf crammed with mismatched tools and items. There was a claw hammer on the shelf. Did I take the hammer? Yes. As I took the hammer, I noticed it wasn't as dusty as the rest of the tools on the shelf. Ah, meine Fresse. The locker was a complete mess. Hidden at the bottom, though, was a magnetic card. Did I take the card? Yes. I slipped the keycard into my pocket. Another panel that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Yes. Nochmal. Hä? Switch gar nichts. Ah, jetzt ging's. Another panel. Yes. Another panel. Yes. So. Oh, wow. Oh, Mann. Jetzt ist aber ungemütlich hier. Hätte ich vielleicht nicht tun sollen. Ohne Strom gefällt es mir besser, aber ruhiger einfach. Einfach alles ruhiger hier. Guten Tag. I used the hammer. The old wooden boards came apart easily. After I had removed the planks, I left the hammer off the floor. Oh. It's interessant. This was my locker. There in the factory. It stank of booze. There was a picture of Rachel on the inside. It looked like it had been torn up. I thought I had taken that picture home when the factory closed. There was a mess of empty booze bottles. I wondered if that man in the house had something to do with this. He sure had a lot of alcohol in this place. Achso, ne, den habe ich schon. Ja, ich würde sagen, mit der Keycard öffnen wir jetzt erstmal da hinten die Tür. The keycard I found seemed like it would pass through this reader. Did I use the keycard? Yes. There was some kind of ventilation hatch there. It looked like it could jump to the room below. My leg hurt enough as it was, but I couldn't see another option. Did I jump? Yes, of course. Oh, wow, 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 wow. Oh man, my leg hurt like hell. Was mit seinem Leg überhaupt passiert? There was a crumpled up letter in the floor. It had been scratched out heavily, and it was hard to make out. Did I try to read the letter? Yes. Most of the letter was violently scratched out with what looked to be a ballpoint pen. All I could make out was need to. Just don't drinking need Norman. Who was Norman writing to? Ich dachte, die steht seit Jahren still. I stepped out of the factory, glad to be rid of its smells and of its memories. I couldn't stop thinking about that room with the bottles in it. Was that guard I found outside really drinking up there? What about Norman, and who had routed through all those loggers? I couldn't tell where I was as I looked around, but I figured I needed to get to a road, get my bearings. Maybe Norman could help. His store wasn't that far from the turn-off of the factory, if I remembered correctly. Na, jetzt sind wir also gleich in der Stadt. Ach, wir sind schon in der Stadt, okay. Wir sind in der Stadt. Sounded like it was going to start raining again. Das wäre super. I had entered Norman's place. This was the back of the store that he ran. It was oddly quiet except for the faint sound of television. The entrance to the front of the store was locked from the inside. Looked like I couldn't just pop it open. I needed a key. There was a bit of blood on the keyhole. Das gefällt mir dann so gar nicht. Also Sie können mir sagen, was ihr wollt, aber ich habe gerade Schredderlings gehört. Oh Gott, nein. Ich will gar nicht... Nein, 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 nein. Was ist das da oben? What was this? It looked like a pulled chain hanging from the ceiling. I wondered where it led. Did I pull the chain? No. Somehow I was too afraid to see what was up there for myself. Maybe it was for the best. Oh God, nein, Norman. Jesus, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my co-worker and one of the few friends I had in this town, lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he'd been shot trying to get up. His eyes were still wide with shock. Norman, you deserve better than this. Did I close his eyes? Yes. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him peace, or if I just couldn't stand to think anymore about what was going on. Quickly I closed Norman's eyes. The TV still flickered some indecipherable channel. Gut. I guess this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there were water rings from 2 cups still there in the wood. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through that mess, did I? Yes! I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash that pocketed it. Aha. Aha. Norman, was hast du da gemacht? So, jetzt gehen wir mal hoch. Give the chain a single tug and a simple folding ladder to the attic popped down. So, was finden wir hier vor? Die Ringe. There was a large cardboard box that hadn't been sealed. Did I open it? Yes. Inside the old cardboard box was stuff, a pile of clothes, photos and even shoes. As I looked closer, I realized they were Rachel's. What were you doing here, Rachel? Were you responsible for poor Norman's downstairs? Gott, ich hab ja so eine Ahnung, was passiert ist. Ich hab da so eine Ahnung. Aber noch ist ein bisschen zu früh, ja. Ich hab da so eine Ahnung. Eine verkackte Ahnung. Und ihr vermutlich auch. Das erklärt trotzdem nicht die Geräusche, die ich höre. I wasn't entirely surprised to find this there. Was? Keine Ahnung. It was one of Rachel's old folkholes. I always wondered what happened to it. How long had it been here? Heifers. Inside the cabinet was a small but impressive collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and even a few items I didn't think they were legal there. One of the slots on the rack was empty. The gun I had found seemed to match the others there. If the handgun was Norman's, what the hell was he doing with it? The gun would fit there. Did I place it back in the cabinet? Yes. I carefully pushed the piece back in place and felt a great burden lift it. Oh Mann. Das gefällt mir echt so absolut null. I used the hairpin to pick the lock. The hairpin snapped in half, so I threw it away. The general store was small, but it was clean. It had the usual things: postcards, snacks, magazines, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. The register was mostly empty and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. It must have been off for a while. Most of its contents were half melted. There were various postcards from the area, especially from the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old black and white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. Hätte ich vielleicht doch mal auf dem Wasserturm nachsehen sollen. Das ärgert mich so ein bisschen. It'd been weeks since I'd last seen Norman, and finding him in that way still left me cold. Thinking of him slumped against that chair only cemented my reassurance in getting rid of that gun. It looked like someone had taken that piece from his store. But why was it in those tunnels? As I stepped outside, I recalled that dusty old box of clothes in Norman's attic. I felt like I had only discovered more questions, no answers. But I was too close to home. It was time to find out the truth. It's about dang time. Was sind denn das hier alles für? Dann fange ich beim ersten Mal an. It was locked. This wasn't the right gate. Ach so, okay. Das sind jetzt die Häuser. Verstehe. The gate was locked tight. This wasn't my house. Er humpelt. Ich hör's genau. Dass sie an sowas denken, das ist heftig. The gate was locked tight. This wasn't my house. Ah, okay. The neighborhood's local postbox. The letter was sticking out as somebody hadn't pushed it all the way in. I knew it wasn't right, but did I look at the letter? Yes. The envelope was addressed to Norman. There was no return address, but the handwriting looked familiar. I took a deep breath and tore open the package. The letter read: Norman, I'm sending this to you in a letter because I'm afraid to tell you this in person. What we did, well, it was wrong. My husband isn't an easy man to be with, but he is my husband and your friend. I need some time to sort this out, away from you both. I'm going away for a while. I'm going to tell him, Norman, so don't you think you can hold that against me. I'm going to tell him and get past this. Maybe we'll work it out. I'm not sure I even wanted to, but he deserves at least that much. Goodbye. Aha. Hat die Alte uns betrogen, oder was? Ja, ich weiß. Hat die Alte uns betrogen und... I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I held my breath as I approached my our back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painful quiet. The only sound was my own breathing, ragged and strained. I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. Natürlich. The chair was clean. It hadn't been used any time recently. So liegt die Betonung. Ich würde sagen, erstmal in den Keller und den Strom wieder anschalten, oder? The front door was locked from inside. I couldn't go out though. I needed to see if Rachel was here. Ich glaube schon, oder? Naja. The door to the basement was locked. Where had I put the damn key? Ich weiß es nicht, mein Lieber. Ich weiß es wirklich nicht. The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. Oh, television. I had purchased it before I knew I was going to lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterward, but by then it was too late. In wessen Haus sind wir eigentlich aufgewacht? Oh. Our hallway mirror had been smashed, its pieces scattered around the floor. Ist das Blut? Oh Gott, nein. Ernsthaft? The books there were half mine, half Rachel's. Hey, now that I looked more closely, it looked like that man in that house had some of the same books as I did. Oh, was ist hier los? My wife's, Rachel's suitcase was sitting on the bed. It was closed, but I had a feeling of what was in it. Did I open it? Yes. Rachel's suitcase contained clothes, toiletries, and a train ticket. Is this what you were going to do with Norman? Our sink, which needed to be replaced. One of the taps always stuck, but I hadn't got around to fix it yet. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of those wonderful old claw-footed bath tubes. My laptop had been left on and I only had a tiny bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top drawer of my desk. Did I take it? Yes. I pocketed the key. Ich wollte eigentlich nicht so lange aufnehmen, aber irgendwie... Ich weiß auch nicht. Warte mal, hier war ich doch, oder? Ja. Das war das Wohnzimmer hier. Basement. Natürlich, der Keller. I locked the basement door. Gottverdammte Scheiße. Oh, nein. There were old Christmas decorations in the box. The garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was a dirty old key there. Did I take the key? I took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. Ja, das weiß ich nicht. There were old clothes tools and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. Obviously. I had put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck and the drywall was poorly installed. I might have been able to break through if I found something heavy enough. Ach, ärgerlich. Jetzt kommt's. Klar. Was kann ich denn damit jetzt aufmachen? No way was I going to walk away from this now. Was kann ich mit dem alten Key denn jetzt öffnen? Ich habe keinen Plan. The green key I have found in the basement door unlocked the door. Ah, okay, da war ich noch gar nicht. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did somebody break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Did I need to take the crowbar? Yes. I lifted the heavy crowbar. I appreciated its weight. Ah, mein Gott. Oh nein, 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 nein. Ich glaube, oh nein, nein, das kann nicht sein. The crowbar I found would have been strong enough to bust through that cheap wall. Did I break through the wall with the crowbar? Yes, please. With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall. I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down there? Was she okay? Don't look. Oh nein. Ich muss aber. Don't look. Ich gucke nicht. Ich gucke nicht. Ich gucke nicht. Ich gucke nicht. Was ist das für ein Geräusch? Gott, ich glaube, irgendwas ganz Schlimmes passiert gleich und ich schreie wieder mir die Seele aus dem Leib. Gar nichts hier. A filthy looking pile of rags had been dumped in the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile to see what lay within. But I knew I had to. I had come this far. After all the searching, after all I had seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel? Okay. Yes! Bitte nicht. Bitte. Komm. Nothing to see here. Was? Alter, gleich bestimmt. Warte. Wie geht's weiter? Ach ja noch. Ah, nein. Nein. Oh Gott, was ist denn... Was ist denn jetzt los? Maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some place to go. Ah. Was ist das denn? This was that old photo of that other man and his wife. I assumed I found it in that house. I recalled those faded remains I had found deep underneath this house. What had he done here? Well, what did I think? Was that man involved in this whole mess somehow? No. I wasn't sure, but the poor old bastard was good and dead. He was a victim, not a criminal. Oh, was ist denn jetzt hier passiert? Oh, was passiert denn jetzt? Within the few broken pieces that remained of the mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I felt empty and drained. Was ist denn jetzt hier los? It was the keycard I found in the factory, the one that allowed me to slip through that door. It seemed to me that it was probably Norman's, but if that was true, what was he doing back at the plant? Did I think Norman was going back to the factory? Yes. It must have been him. He must have been using the old locker room. Was denn jetzt hier los? The laptop had finally run out of power. Ich war doch eben noch im Keller. Wieso bin ich jetzt hier oben wieder aufgewacht? Ich verstehe das nicht. Was denn? The reflection in that grimy glass was only shadow, I whispered. I still loved the old-time charm of that clawful bathtub, though it seemed like cold comfort then. Was ist denn hier? Ich verstehe jetzt echt nicht ganz. I still had no idea what was on that tape I found in the garbage. If only I had found a way to watch it. Ach nein. From now on I'd have no one to get angry with me for stupid things like buying this TV. It seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe I thought I was ready to go back into the basement. Ja, was? Also, tut mir leid, ich verstehe es gerade nicht so ganz. I guess I was ready to face the truth now. It was the knife I'd found in the sewers. I left it here because I didn't want it near me anymore. Was all of this my fault? Was I responsible for Rachel's death? If I was guilty, I could take this to a warm, safe place and do something about it. Did I pick up the knife? Yes. I took the knife and kept it firmly in my hand. I couldn't go back into that room again. There would be no more dinners here, no more chit-chat over breakfast. At least, not for us. Must have locked the door. There was no reason to return to the backyard anyway. Natürlich, wieso auch nicht. Ich habe das Knife in der Hand. Ich habe das Knife. That was it. With Rachel gone, I couldn't stand to be in that house a moment longer. Did I leave and say goodbye to the nightmare forever? Yes. Since I had arrived in town, things had been difficult. Working the plant, though, it had been good for me. It kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I had started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. Drinking was probably just a way to deal with that. It was almost as if I was trying to beat my brain at its own game. Things stopped making sense some time after that, and my memories of what happened are still in flux. But I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me, even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was the final act of a long-standing horror I'd been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I'd remained unconscious in that room forever. I wasn't sure what had happened to that other man I'd found in that house. He seemed to me more a victim. But what was his role in all this? The forest, especially, was a difficult maze. and I would rest easier if I never saw its like again. It was clear, at least, that Norman had been going back to the old plan. Maybe he was the one who had boarded up that locker room, who had been drinking up there in that secret hiding place. So, had he killed that guard then? He must have. Maybe he must have. Maybe he was found out, or the guard had caught him on patrol. Jesus, Norman. Why? I had to catch breath now to take it all in. Up until the factory, things had only gotten worse. But then I had seen something I wouldn't have expected. When I went to Norman's store, that's when my perspective on all this really started to change. Norman was dead, but I had no idea what had happened to him. Finding Rachel's things at his store, though, had been the ultimate shock. I would get no answers now, but that didn't stop my head from reeling with questions. But as painful as all of that was, oh God, I couldn't bear to think about it again. After all I had done and seen, finally coming home was supposed to be the end of this entire ordeal. God help me, though it was only the beginning. As I swung open the door and stepped out into the air, I caught the scent of wet grass and fog. Rachel, my beautiful wife. Just the thought of her again could, on an urge, shook me from head to toe. What would I do now? Who could I turn to? It would only be a matter of time before the police got involved, before the neighbors knew. The front lawn was soft and giving beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the urge that I shouldn't stand there, but rather that I should run. Story Design und Programming, Art und Sounddesign von Benjamin Rivers. Ja, meine Lieben. Gucken wir uns jetzt mal die Leute an, die dazu beigetragen haben, dieses Spiel möglich zu machen. Dieses kleine, aber feine Indie-Spiel. Jedes Item, was man findet, jede Aktion, die man macht, hat signifikante Auswirkungen auf die eigentliche Geschichte. Ich kann euch nur raten, versucht es mal selber. Macht es anders als ich. Schaut, was dabei rauskommt. Ihr findet dieses Spiel auf Steam. Ich werde es in die Beschreibung packen. Home is dedicated to my wife Nancy. Watch your back. The end. Share your story at homehorror.com. What happened? Wie schon gesagt, jedes hat signifikante Änderungen. Jeder erlebt seine eigene Geschichte. Gut, meine Lieben, ich würde sagen, das war's. Das war Home. Wie gesagt, versucht es selber. Ich fand es schon ziemlich cool. Das war's. Ich sage jetzt Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen. Haut rein.